The time has finally come. PS1 and PSP games are starting to show up on the Malaysia PlayStation Store ahead of the PS Plus relaunch, and now we can finally test out what it's like playing a classic game on a PS5 and PS4. There are save states, rewinds, video presets, a lot more. Let's take a look. Now, as I'm currently filming this video, there's only 4 games showing up on PSN in Malaysia. That's Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, Worms World Party, Worms Armageddon, and Ridge Racer 2, which is on PSP. Only Oddworld is available for purchase right now at 20 Malaysia Ringgit, which is really good if we do a straight conversion to other currencies. So that would be 456 USD, 584 Canadian, 645 Australian, 364 pounds sterling, or 430 euro. We do get to see, though, that Worms Armageddon, while we can't buy it, it does say that it's 39 ringgit, which would be 889 USD, 1139 Canadian, 1257 Australian, 711 pounds sterling, and 839 euro. So these are initial prices we're seeing. There's no guarantee there'll be this in the other territories, but certainly it'll be close, you would think, which would make most of these games fairly affordable if you choose to buy them individually outside of a PS Plus Premium or Deluxe membership. However, for Ridge Racer, the PSP game, the PS Store listing does say not available for purchase, so we'll see what happens there. But just as a reminder, if you did buy these games previously on PS3, Vita, or PSP, your purchase should be honored when they relaunch on PS5 and PS4, so you could just re-download them when they go live without a Plus membership. Now, heading over to the PlayStation Store, we already see an interesting choice here on Sony's end. Much like the PS2 games on PS4, these will be title ID'd as PS4 and PS5 games, so they carry PS4 and PS5 labels, but there's also a parenthesis that mentions PS1 emulation. Realistically, there's nothing surprising about them being ID'd on modern hardware, that's expected, but if there was ever a time to start using PS1 and PS2 labels as more of a front-facing signifier for consumers, now I imagine would have been the time to do it, but that's not the case. However, there are indeed 2 separate versions for these games, so on PS5 this means you could download both if you choose to, which would be handy if you like going for trophies, and you want to knock out, say, the same game twice. That's very common, but as I speculated on LTPS last Friday, we do have confirmation here, trophies are not guaranteed, Oddworld does not have any. Which, as I've argued before, this is a best case scenario, because if you mandate trophies, it's going to severely slow down the rollout of how many games they can realistically get on the service over time. That's why the PS2 program on PS4 was short-lived, that's why PS3, that storefront over time had hundreds of PS1 and PS2 classics. Yeah, there's no trophies, but, and I understand that certainly adds a certain level of replayability for a lot of those games. I love earning trophies, but in the interest of getting more games on the service, I think making them optional was the right call, and so we see that for Bend Studio, where they're a first-party team. It seems like they wanted to go ahead and do it, but this also means some teams that want to prioritize certain things, or other things rather, different projects, they don't have to, these PS1 classics, these PSP games, they don't have to be held back by that hard requirement. So perhaps we'll see a best case scenario where there's a lot of games, and some of them will have trophy support. Now, let's jump into Abe's Odyssey. You'll get a screen telling you start and select or map to the touchpad, and after that you'll be able to begin the game. Once you're playing, you'll notice the control center does not have any cards, and as far as I can see, you'll only have them if there's an active party. Not sure yet for a PS1 game that does have trophies, but I would assume those would display as well. The thing is, though, I thought the suspend and save state feature would be tied to a card, but that's not the case. Hitting options will bring up the classics menu. I suspect this was just to simplify the controls across both PS4 and PS5, as it is the same on both. So basically, there's no special card support on PS5. Immediately you'll see Rewind, Load and Save, and Settings. Settings is where we've got a pleasant surprise, various options for video filters and aspect ratios. For video presets, you can choose between Default, Retro Classic, and Modern. Default looks sharp and bright, but Retro overlays a CRT-like filter. Modern is also sharp, but doesn't have the exposure levels that Default has. Between all three, Default is easily the brightest. For aspect ratios, you can do native resolution, 1:1, 4:3 for 16:10, 4:3 for 16:9, square pixels, or wide zoom stretched. As you'd expect, native resolution ignores your TV size and displays the game at its native resolution. 1:1 is that perfect square. The 4:3 setting will be most suited for what you're playing on, so 16:10 is usually computer monitors, 16:9 for most TVs. Square pixels is also self-explanatory. This ensures pixels are squared instead of non-square. Wide zoom stretches the game to fill your display completely. For loading and saving, this is where your save states are, completely independent of the game's original saving system, which, as far as I can see for Abe's Odyssey, works as intended. The game thinks there's memory cards for slot 1 and 2, with plenty of open slots. But for save states, you can do up to 6, and it's pretty straightforward. You can save whenever you want and reload whenever you want. It's fast, responsive, and it just works. At the system level, it's all placed into one save file that can be deleted, moved around, or also uploaded to PS Plus Cloud saves. Now you'll notice that when you hit options, you'll always see the timeline for the rewind feature. It's the first option, and you can quickly navigate the timeline and get a brief view of where you were in the game. I don't have the exact number here, but it seems like each frame is 10 to 12 seconds, probably 10 as a nice round number. But this works pretty well too, except I've noticed for Oddworld that when you rewind, the screen you're on can have some distortion going on. You can see it pretty well here with the barrels in the middle. It doesn't break the game or anything, you can keep playing, and at least for this particular title, moving to a different screen fixes the issue immediately. So at least right now we can say that the rewind feature may have some unintended behaviors when playing a PS1 or a PSP game. Besides that though, it does work well. This will be so handy for a variety of PS1 games that may have been on the punishing side when it came to difficulty or even checkpoints. So between the rewind and save states, this will go a long way for a number of titles. Also, in terms of playing on PS4, the experience is largely the same. Nothing all that different really, except I did notice DualShock 4 rumble functionality when scrolling across the rewind timeline, which is a bit strange considering this was not present for the DualSense and its haptic feedback. Outside of that, however, playing on PS4 has the same menu and, at a glance, the same performance, so still the same snappy responsiveness when using save states or rewinds. As for the emulation itself goes, it's far too early to call. We just don't have enough to test, and admittedly I won't have the best eye for this compared to others, but at least for Abe's Odyssey I can say it does look good and play just fine. Nothing out of the ordinary that I've spotted in my initial testing. It's also too early to call what the situation is going to be regarding NTSC or PAL versions, which one Sony's going to use and for what territories. Ideally, PAL versions are avoided completely so there's no more 50Hz issues, but again, we just don't have that answer just yet. If I had to guess, I think we are going to see some PAL versions show up, which is going to be problematic based on the effort we're seeing right now. I'd be surprised if Sony wouldn't attempt to tackle this common complaint after all these years. Now, that's pretty much it, and if it wasn't obvious, this is not quite a final review per se, it's just an initial look at the functionality for PS1 Classics on PS5, which, so far at least, it looks really good. In fact, I am not quite blown away, but genuinely surprised and happy to see what we're getting so far. It kind of goes back to what I've said on a few occasions about how Sony has every opportunity in the book to really wipe away this narrative that they don't care about their old legacy games, right? This isn't quite, true backwards compatibility per se, but it is something where we're seeing the availability of, PS1 and now PSP games finally getting brought to PS4 and PS5 after essentially nearly skipping the PS4 cycle, right? So towards the very end, it's finally there. And sure, you might have to buy them again if you never bought them on the PS Store on PS3 or PSP. No, you can't use a CD or whatever. And the thing is, the reason why you can't use a CD on, well, PS4, it would technically be possible, but PS5 definitely not happening because PS5 cannot read CDs at all. PS4 can't either, but that's software locked. But the point is, you're not going to get true backwards compatibility. They're not going to let you do it the way Microsoft does. So again, there's obviously, certain areas where we can criticize or look at it more critically. But in terms of the, the video filters, the save states, the rewind, how it's working so far, being able to purchase games outside of PS Plus, honoring purchases prior, they do have every opportunity to really showcase these games and bring them forward in a really big, meaningful way. And I would say so far this is the start of it. If it continues, that's completely another question, right? But so far, this looks good, really good. I am liking it a lot. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. We'll of course be doing more coverage on the PS Plus relaunch when there's more PS1 games, PSP titles, and all that good stuff. But if you haven't just yet, please consider subscribing for the best PlayStation news, reviews, and updates that are here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mystic Ryan, and that is it. I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.